Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. All right, guys, I would love to kick this episode off with a little moment of gratitude and appreciation for all of you, because the more this podcast grows, the more connected I feel to the community and just how amazing it is that we all can learn from one another and support each other and really celebrate all of our stories, which is just so cool. And I also love when you guys message me and just have open dialogue about things that are discussed on the show. Maybe things you agree with, don't agree with, like, didn't like, whatever. I appreciate it. I think it's awesome. And I just wanted to say thank you guys, whether you're tuning in for the first time or you're a long-time listener. It does mean a lot to me as well as the athletes, so I appreciate it. And today's guest is from a small town in Virginia. She works as a speech pathologist in a high school, but she also has a burning passion for fitness and health, which has led her to work with women locally and online to develop a healthy lifestyle or nail their posing for competitions. She started competing in 2016 on a whim. And after winning her class, she fell in love with the sport, kept competing all the way through her undergrad and master's program. And then in 2019, she stepped on the national stage for the third time at Universe, won her pro card, then went on to do her pro debut at the San Antonio Pro, where she received first callouts among, might I say, a very impressive lineup, which, by the way, of those 7 girls in that first callouts, all but one of them have been on this show, which is so awesome. And now, of course, you as well. So if this competitor is getting ready to compete again. So welcome to the show, Kasey Wilson. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited to be here.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you're here too. And I have to ask, is there something you do or a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
Okay, so I've listened to this podcast a million times and I still don't even have one. I feel like it just kind of is bringing myself down, relax, and like feeling thankful, feeling ready, and just going through like some basic positive affirmations in my head. There's nothing really super specific that I do.
Awesome. No, I think that's awesome. And like I always find it funny because I don't really have like a set ritual for myself that's like anything special. So
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting when I hear other people. So I'm kind of similar to you in that sense. Like it doesn't have to be the same thing every time. So I had mentioned in the intro, but you did 3 national shows before winning your pro card at Universe. And I always find the road to pro very interesting. And I'd actually love to hear from you, like what you felt you learned from the first 2 shows that maybe was influential in your success in the third one.
Yeah. So my first national show was in 2018. It was kind of the same thing as why I started competing. It was just kind of on a whim. I didn't really know anything about national shows. Of course, knew what a pro card was, but I didn't even expect to place or even do well. It was just kind of like, oh, well, I'll see how I do and if I want to keep doing this. So I competed and I ended up winning my class. And was completely shocked. People kept coming up to me after and they were like, you could go pro, right? I'm like, what? Oh, I guess I can. I have no idea. And so then I won my class, went on for the overall, didn't get my pro card that time, but I was so proud of myself. Sorry. It was okay. Like, I was so proud of myself and wasn't disappointed. And I felt like people wanted me to be disappointed. Yeah. But at that point, I just knew it solidified the fact that I can do this. And then I did the same show the following year. And I kind of had this mindset of, oh, I'm going to get it this time.
What show was this?
The same show as Junior USA's.
Okay.
Yep. So I did that one again. This time I brought my whole family because I was like, oh, I'm for sure going to get it. And let me tell you, that is the worst mentality to ever have going into a show. Never feel like you have it locked down, because then you just set yourself up for disappointment. And then when I got second, I was crushed, totally crushed.
Wow.
And that's kind of when I learned, like, for me, it's just better to go in with a have fun with it mentality, do the best you can, and the placing is going to follow.
Wow. That's actually very different than what a lot of people say and talk about, which is, go in knowing you're going to win, believe in yourself, write it down every day, visualize this. And I think both have good merit, good reason for that. And you had this experience. So did you end up applying that lesson of just have fun with it when you went to Universe?
Yes, exactly. So,
okay.
Yeah. And at that point, I mean, I'll go into this later. I was going through some personal things and I just really needed a win in my life. And so it wasn't even a situation where I felt pressured. I was just like, I'm going to go and have fun. And if I get my pro card, then I get it. And if not, then we'll just try again later. And sure enough, I got it. And I'm still shocked to this day.
That's awesome. One of my good friends always says, needing nothing attracts everything. Sounds like you let go of the need for the pro card and you just went in to get that experience because you love to compete. And you just mentioned you were going through some personal hardships and you needed a win. What was going on in that time?
Yeah. So Universe is usually like 4th of July weekend. My dad was diagnosed with cancer at the beginning of June. And I told my coach that, and it was just an emotional time for my family, not really knowing what type of cancer or is even cancer, what's going to happen, is there chemo? And we had all planned to go to Universe together. And of course that was not going to happen. My dad couldn't travel. So it was just to like kind of fast forward so no one's like all upset right now. My dad is now in remission and chemotherapy worked really well.
That's great
for him. So that's a blessing. But I just remember my dad being like, you need to win. Like, bring it home.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that was definitely much needed in my life. And I got to go with my mom and my best friend. So.
Wow. And when you got home and you were like, I did it, I won my pro card, or did you call him and tell him after?
Oh yeah. He was like on Instagram Live watching it. And but he wasn't even like excited anymore by the time I called him, because my mom had already like called him and he cried. My mom was crying. It was great.
Wow. It sounds like they're really invested in your journey as an athlete.
Yes. Yeah. Especially now, ever since they saw me compete the first time, they were nothing but supportive.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm so glad to hear that. Were you an athlete before, or was this something you said you competed on a whim? So I mean, how did you even know? I'm always curious what that means, compete on a whim. What did that mean for you?
Yeah. So it's actually, there's kind of like 2 funny stories built into this. I did not do anything athletic growing up at all. Sports were not my thing. I was the artsy girl. I did dance. I did show choir. I did band. Like, if it was artistic, you can bet I was there, and I was not running or throwing a ball or working out. But I've always been like kind of thinner, like a petite size. And I remember going to college and my dad was like, oh, like, do you see the gym? It's just a few feet from your dorm. Why don't we go check it out? And I looked at him and said, I'm already skinny. Why do I need to go work out? Like, that's stupid. And of course I had no idea that being skinny or thin had nothing to do with your health.
Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah. So lucky for me, I had a roommate who loved to work out, and she introduced me to weight training. And I went to the university gym with her for a while, and then went to a gym like back home. And after about a year working out, there were a lot of competitors at my home gym. And a friend of mine now came up to me and was like, do you compete?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, always kind of this like girl next door giggly. And I'm like, what's competing? I don't know. Tell me. And he set me up with my coach and we did a show. We did like a 6-week prep and I did my first show and I've been with her ever since.
Okay. That is so awesome. And I really can't wait to talk to you about your coaching relationship. And I'm especially curious now because it was just like your friend set you up with this coach and then you decided to go for it. It was 6 weeks later you were on stage. Like, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even imagine. I mean, what did the coach, let me just ask you about it now. What did your coach, when you reached out to her, say? Like, was she just like, oh, you could be ready in 6 weeks? And you were like, okay. Or like, how did you even go about that whole process?
Yeah. So she's local. So she's about 45 minutes to an hour from me.
Okay.
And I had emailed back and forth with her and she said to come into her gym where she saw girls. And I was like 19 at the time. So I was like all shy and stuff. I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember she gave me some of her old heels to put on and I had a regular swimsuit. And she was like, well, there's a show in 3 weeks. It's the Linda Murray. Do you want to do it? And I was like, what do you mean do I want to do it? I don't know anything. I don't know the poses. I haven't dieted at all. So I was just like in shape, I guess.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know how much the bikini scene has changed since then. Yeah. I always tell girls now, like, if I went on stage the way I did in 2016, now I would not have won. I would not win.
Yeah.
Just because we're so much bigger. They're so much more muscular now. I love it.
So much more. Me too.
Oh, yeah. It's like totally changed the way the scene looks. But yeah, it was just, my first prep was more about, let's see if we can get my shoulders a little bigger, get my glutes a little bigger. I wish I could keep that diet. I remember I was eating like cheese and English muffins on my prep diet for my first show.
Damn. Was that because that's how you were already eating?
Back. Yes.
So your coach was like, just leave diet?
I didn't have like any diet. No diet.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. One of my friends, she was helping this girl pose and that girl was like looking so good. Like, she looked amazing. And my friend asked her, like, what's your diet looking like at this point? What's your like workouts looking like? This girl was like, I'm not dieting. Like, she's just getting McDonald's if she wants to. She's eating what I'm thinking. How, like, I don't know how that even is possible, but dieting history definitely adds up for sure. And you weren't dieting before. So it makes sense why then it was like, by going a little bit more intense with the training, maybe making some tweaks, then of course you'd look pretty good.
Oh yeah. I think it was like my protein. She got my protein up. I had no idea the first thing about nutrition. So I was eating like ground turkey and chicken all the time with her prep diet. And I was like, wait, I can actually grow muscle if I eat some more protein. I have no idea.
Wow.
Like, I think I was the definition of like, I had no idea what I was doing when I started.
Yeah, you literally had zero clue. It wasn't like you were into fitness and nutrition and you were like already reading up and training and all this stuff. It was like, I went to college, saw the gym was over there. I thought I was fine because I was skinny. Okay, started training, went back home. People thought I was a competitor. Okay, let's compete. Wait, what is a competition? What is a diet? Like, that's so crazy to me because that is like almost, I don't know, it's almost unheard of. Like, in this community, we're exposed to people constantly who just like diet and train all the time, or they know what that is, or they're into the fitness world themselves. It's so very rare to come across someone who doesn't even know like a protein could help you build muscle.
Oh yeah, that was me, 100%.
Wow. And then
you feel like it's nice now because it's easier for me to explain it to people who also don't know. Because when you think about it, most people don't have a clue. And we're all sectioned off in our little fitness, like niche.
Girl, I say both. Niche.
I'm like, how is it actually pronounced? But like, we don't realize that the general public doesn't know.
Yeah. That's true. Just like when you go and tell someone you're an IFBB Pro, they're like, what?
Yeah,
At least a
exactly.
lot
Like,
of the
what's
girls
that?
I talk to, like, that's the IFBB Pro. Like, the only people who, this sounds horrible, the only people who care are the ones who are immersed in the industry in some way.
Yep. So true.
Which actually, I mean, that brings up so many different areas of this conversation I want to take, but I'm tempted to hear a little bit more about your coach, actually, because I think a lot of girls feel like a looming pressure that they can't be successful in the sport unless they're coached by this person or that person or this, they're on this team. And you've been with the same coach for 4 years. It started with a 6-week prep. You have no regrets about it. I'm sure you have. It seems like you're very loyal. So can you expand on that relationship and how you feel about the whole idea of needing to be on a big team?
Yeah. So of course, back in 2016, I had no idea what I was doing. And it wasn't as popular as it is now on social media and whatnot. And I didn't know anything about coaching. And so I really, really lucked out. And I'm so blessed and so thankful that I found my coach, Maria. But the reason I wouldn't even think about leaving her now is because I've created a relationship with her that I don't think exists with, and of course it does for some, so I won't generalize, but I don't think that exists as well when you have someone that coaches 100 different girls and they have people all over the world. How well do they really, really know you as a person? And I know my coach knows everything about me. I've seen her daughter grow up. I do workouts with her husband. I see her other competitors. She's like my second mom. And yeah, and the way she's manipulated my body over the past 4 years, she just knows my body like it's her own now.
Yeah.
And by jumping coaches or like, I don't know, not using the same coach over and over. Of course, sometimes you have to leave your coach, but giving that person an opportunity to really get to know you, get to know your body is incredible.
Yes. And like you said, there are circumstances and times where you need to leave your coach or maybe,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And like, it sounds like for you, what's really important is that relationship. And for some girls, like, I mean, I work with competitors with their mindset, their relationship with food. And so I hear about, their coaching relationships. And for some girls, they really don't care if their coach knows anything about their life. They really are just focused on the physique. And then there's some who are like, no, I need someone who's more personal or who understands like my need for coaching or how I like to be coached. And I think it's about understanding your needs, and you've been able to do that, and you've had your needs met by someone from the very beginning. So it's kind of like that saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Oh my gosh, I say that all the time.
You do?
Literally all the time. And it's almost always about this exact subject.
What the heck? I love that.
Oh yeah. Like, I'm not gonna leave her. Like, people always ask about politics and they want to say, oh, you're not gonna go pro if you don't have this person as your coach. But that's not the case. And I'm not the only person to prove that that's not the case. Like, there are plenty of other bikini pros who are coached by people who aren't like big name on social media, and they still get their pro card and they're still successful.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And everyone will have their own reasoning. Like, someone who's on a big team might have a different reasoning than someone who's not. And so maybe that is the intimacy with your coach, or maybe it's the level of attention to detail. And maybe those things aren't sacrificed. Maybe there's teams with multiple coaches, but it's about, again, like what works for you. And
so true.
We did talk about like you becoming a pro, and I want to talk to you more about that. But before we do, I think it'd be interesting to hear about how, yes, you work with your coach for a prep, but in an improvement season, you've always taken an intuitive approach. So what does it normally look like for you from one day post show to the day before you start prepping again? Like, what's your process?
Okay. So I do use my coach to do like a reverse diet a little bit.
Okay.
We don't take the approach where I really slowly increase my calories back. We kind of jump a big jump closer to my maintenance calories right after my show.
Nice.
And then I'll usually take her meal plans and her guides kind of as an outline to create my own diet. And a lot of that has just been learning my body and learning more about nutrition and what foods I can sub where, things like that. And then just kind of giving myself that freedom away from constantly tracking and constantly being on a meal plan is such a relief for me. Just for me to mentally get back into the game of, all right, I'm going to eat the same foods the same times every day. I just needed a break. And I think that's helped a lot with my relationship with food. I see a lot of girls who diet themselves into a hole and then they hate certain things and they refuse to eat certain things. But I try to be easy on myself in the off season, and I'll check in with myself. I'll check with my coach periodically. And if it looks like I'm flying off the handle, she'll be like, all right, we need to rein it in a little bit. Like, she'll be honest with me, but she also knows that I don't want to follow a meal plan and I don't want to track macros constantly because I have a life too outside of this.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah, really, I promise.
Oh no, I love that you say that, because there's a lot of common misconceptions. There's also different perceptions of what is the right way or the right thing. And I like to say, like, it's not always about, am I doing this right? It's about, do I feel right about what I'm doing? And if we can, right? Like, we got to focus our mentality on like what actually feels good for us, because we're going to constantly be exposed to things that, I mean, there was a time when bodybuilders only knew about bro science, like only knew this is how you got to do it, where it was like there was no talk of macros or making fit. I mean, like, you could argue that like a Weight Watchers plan was like, with the point system, was the closest thing we knew about that, you know, which is wild. Oh, yeah. But it wasn't until like it started coming into the bodybuilding world, this exposure of, you can eat your macros to a certain percentage, or, oh, you can have this many grams, or this is how your body responds. So there were times where there was one way to do things. And so when we can remind ourselves of that, I think we can go, what might I not be seeing that I could really need or benefit from? And for you, that was the intuitive approach, or the, hey, I'm going to apply what my coach gives me, but also with more flexibility and a little more lax. But you said something that stood out to me, which was that it's a break from needing to eat the same thing every day, the same hour of the day. Is that normally how a prep is for you?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. How long are your preps usually?
Usually 12 to 15 weeks.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, and I'll change stuff up like a little bit as far as like seasonings or like mustard versus hot sauce. But yeah, I definitely eat the same things every day.
So it's just so interesting, because you go from the prep life like that to then like a more intuitive approach. So some people would question if it would hinder you, because what if you're not eating enough, or how can you be sure that, you know, when it's time to start a prep, you know where your numbers are at or what you need to be doing? So how would you respond to someone who might have those concerns?
Yeah, so when I say like I eat intuitively, I really don't mean I eat willy-nilly all day long. I would say I loosely track my macros. So I do know, just in my head, a general sense of, all right, I'm eating this amount of chicken. That's about 25 grams of protein. Okay, I'm eating this amount of oatmeal. That's about 20 grams of carbs. So I know in my head about what I'm eating. And for a few days out of the week, I might just throw everything into MyFitnessPal to make sure I'm getting enough protein, make sure I'm around an amount of fat that's healthy for my hormones. So it's not like totally willy-nilly. But I think it's important to know that what you need in one moment isn't necessarily what you need in another moment. So during my off season, I'll look at a piece of cake, for example. I don't know. And in my off season, I'll be like, do I really need this cake? Well, of course the answer is no, you don't need the cake. You never need the cake. But for my mental sanity, I'm going to let myself have it because I need it for the other aspects of my wellness and the other aspects of my health. And that helps me to be okay with saying no to the cake during the 12 to 15 weeks that I'm prepping, because in that 12-week, and it's like, no, I don't need it because I can have it all the other times.
Yes. You know what's funny about that is, do you ever notice, like, when you're in an improvement season and you are allowing yourself that flexibility, cake takes on a whole different meaning than when you're in prep. It's like,
Yep.
in prep, cake. Oh, I really want, like, you walk through Walmart bakery section and you're like, I'm definitely having that after my show. You know, like, you have that mindset.
Yes.
And then it's after your show and you're like, I really could not
So you don't
care
need it
less.
now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that example because it's such a powerful way of illustrating how restriction, whether that's a caloric restriction or an actual physical restriction of a particular food or food group, leads to fixation. And that fixation is usually the catalyst for a binge or for overeating or for going off plan. And if we don't allow ourselves to indulge, like you said, in the improvement season and enjoy those things, even if we're going, there's not a real need. Well, you could also argue, well, there's not a need for rice, there's not a need for chicken. It's like, but why is one more important than the other? And I like that you said you consider all aspects of your wellness. Because like, I have girls journal about the goal value of their food choices in my relationship program. And they said, a lot of them said that they never thought about food outside of macros or outside of a meal plan until they asked themselves, like, what goals is this satisfying? Sometimes it satisfies like the need for belonging or connection, or maybe experiences, right? Texture and culture. And then, there's other times where it's like, well, this gets the job done.
Oh, exactly. Yes. Like, sometimes I think it's okay to just be like, I have to go on a date with my boyfriend, and just let everything go related to the diet and go on the date, eat what you want, have a glass of wine, and just be quote unquote normal, because the need isn't related to your fitness or your health. It's about the relationship with your boyfriend or with your mom or whoever. Food isn't only food. It's so much more than that in our culture.
Yes, and that mindset will show up later. Like, there is no doubt that if you hold on, so like I was actually making this reference earlier, but there's like a major difference between like maintaining and then holding on for dear life. And I think a lot of girls are just holding on for dear life. Like, I'm just gonna hold out for this. I'm not gonna have that. And it's not until they actually give themselves the freedom to choose that they realize, like, oh, I can maintain this. I can sustain this lifestyle. This is a pattern I can feel good about. And for you, you found your pattern. And to your point about going out on a date, like, I think people get intuitive eating or maybe even like flexible dieting confused with like the free for all. It's like, when you go out on your date, if you feel like having chicken and veg, have the chicken and veg. Like, it should be on the same playing field as if you chose to have the burger and fries.
Oh, yes. So true. And being on prep, I feel like we all crave salads for some reason. Everyone wants a salad. So I'm always like, can my cheat meal just be a salad?
Yes, I love a good salad. That was actually my last refeed meal before my coach took them away. Fun fact, at least for this prep, I had a salad. It was so good. But like, it's a salad with like beans and rice and all the yummy stuff in it. But yeah, I'm totally with you on that. It's like,
if you're gonna do a salad, you gotta do it right.
Yes, exactly. We have to think about, what do I actually want? I looked at the menu and I was like, oh, this salad is like 1,000+ calories. Why would I have 1,000 calories of salad when I could have 1,000 calories of enchiladas? And I'm like, I actually want salad. I don't want the enchiladas. And it's like, we have to pay attention to those stories we tell ourselves about calories and about food and the good and bad labels in order to actually have really successful preps. And you mentioned that being able to have a more flexible approach in your improvement season helps you in a prep. Can you expand on that impact on your mindset?
Yeah. So I have to think about it. I think for me, it really does boil down to relationships. And for the beginning of my competitive journey, I did what a lot of people do, I think, and kind of back out of a lot of social stuff because of fear of being around food, being around temptation. And so I really try to nurture my relationships during my off season. Also when I'm prepping too, I still do things with people, but it's a little easier to nurture your relationships during your off season. And a lot of that just happens to be related to food. And of course, I would argue it shouldn't always be related to food, but that's just kind of the way it is in our world and in our society. So for me, that looks like going on like dinner dates with my family or with my boyfriend. And since I work in the schools, we get Panera Wednesday and all the teachers eat Panera. And my students, a lot of them are severely disabled. And so we'll cook things like spaghetti with them. And just to show them, like, it's not just to build that rapport and build those relationships is super important to me. And then that kind of turns around and those people are then willing to support me more so in my prep because they understand the lifestyle that I'm doing.
Yes. And they can respect like your approach is the approach that works for you and is what you need. And they can kind of balance that, the giving that you provide and then that they provide. And I think this is really great to just hear your perspective because we all have different perspectives. And I'm sure there's going to be people who listen and go like, oh, I don't see it that way, or I've not approached that way, or maybe this is what works better for me. And so I think it's great to have different perspectives on the show. And one of the things that you've actually talked about as well is how you struggled with your gut health in 2019 during a prep. And I want to know if you could just expand on like how you actually worked through the inflammation, through the painful bloating, and how working through that actually helped you to develop maybe a more intuitive or deeper understanding of your body.
Yeah. So for me, I think it was a lot of different factors when I was having really bad bloating and digestive issues. For me, one of the biggest ones is stress. When I'm stressed out, I just get constipated. That's what my body wants to do, apparently. And wearing the waist trainer did not help because then I'm squeezing everything in my stomach and I'm not eating and I'm stressing myself out. And then I see myself bloated and that's stressing me out even more. And I won't even like go into the waist trainer because I know that's kind of controversial. Some people
go
love
into
it. Some people hate it.
Do it.
I think it just depends on the person. Some people claim it helps their digestion. I've tried it. I tried it this year. It's neither here nor there for me, I guess. Like,
nice.
I don't know. Whatever you think works for you. But I kind of mitigated that stress with my digestion by planning my prep this year accordingly. One of the reasons I took a job in the school system was so that I could compete in the summers and I wouldn't have to deal with work stress on top of prep stress. So that has been a giant weight off my shoulders just to be able to focus these last few months only on competing, not have to do so much work. And
that's huge. And the fact that you were able to pinpoint that, hey, maybe it's not a certain food, maybe it's not a certain like supplement, maybe it's the fact that I'm stressed and my gut needs a break. And these are all the ways I'm stressing myself out. And like, stress is so powerful because it's even like how we perceive the stress, which you brought up when like you would see the bloating and then that would stress you out even more. And this like sends a big danger signal to our brain that things are not as they need to be, which of course will make the parasympathetic nervous system go, okay, let's shut things down. Let's slow down the digestive tract. Let's make sure things are like, only focus on reducing the stress. And so then if we go to eat again, now we're not optimizing that meal because our gut's not at the highest functioning it needs to be. So when you started reducing stress, did you notice that you actually felt more nourished or more energized or maybe saw more progress?
Oh my goodness. Saw more progress? Like, yes. Hallelujah, yes. Last year when I was prepping for Junior USA was when I had really bad digestive issues, and I was not in a healthy relationship with a boyfriend. I was driving back and forth between school and home, and that's when I was every single week, almost every day, bloated, constipated. It was terrible.
Wow.
And as soon as that relationship ended, I moved completely back home. I had a job secured. Everything was fine. No more digestive issues. Weight started falling off of me left and right. My coach was like, okay, you need to eat a donut now because what is happening? Like, you just lost 3 pounds this week.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. And a lot of it was just reducing that stress, letting myself come down to relaxed level and take deep breaths. And it just made it so much better.
So those were some of the practices you incorporated, like deep breathing or coming back into your own body. Like what practices, maybe tangible, did you use aside from those?
Yeah. So I love salt baths, Epsom salt baths on my rest days. I do those a lot. Just, I always say like being quote unquote normal, like just being normal, because it's so abnormal to be on prep and to carry around your food. But it helps me stay grounded to go to a party with my friends and everyone's drinking, but I'll have my Diet Dr. Pepper. And for that night, I feel like a normal 24-year-old. Or go to the beach, go to the pool bar. I go out to the clubs with my friends when I'm on prep, and just feeling normal helps me stay grounded and level.
I love that. And it's good to know what actually helps you to feel grounded and level. And it seems like the main takeaway here is like, what actually is it that you need? What's going to help you to feel less stressed out? Or maybe like, what's causing the stress and what can you do about it? And you were able to do that. Now, did this also show up on your skin or in your skin like regimen, or how did you change that or manipulate that? Because I know that was something else you had mentioned you were struggling with too.
Yeah. So I actually didn't fix my skin probably until January of this year.
Okay.
I always, this without trying to sound too much like an ad for the purpose of this podcast, I was always the one who was like, all these girls are trying to sell me Arbonne. I don't care about this. Like, I don't need these protein powders. I don't need this skincare line. Stop trying to sell me this like little pyramid scheme nonsense. And finally I met this girl from my gym, and she was like not pushy about it at all. And I saw her great skin, and I knew she worked out a lot. And I was like, wait, she sells Arbonne. Turns out she's like one of the highest level people in the Arbonne system. And she was like, yeah, just like give it a try. And if you hate it, you hate it, whatever. And I started doing her skincare regimen, and it changed my face. Straight up changed my face. On top of obviously diet and all that stuff helps. But it just totally changed my face.
Wow. So that's something that you've continued to do.
Yeah. So I now sell it, and then I use it every single day on top of keeping my skin clear. Is like water. Water is probably like the other biggest one.
Were you not drinking a lot of water before?
I was, but it wasn't like consistently, I guess.
Really?
Especially not in my off season. Like,
okay.
Some days I'll drink like half a gallon. Some days I'll drink 1.5 gallons. But for me, I really have to drink the same amount of water every day.
Yeah.
So that made a big difference too. And then I always used to like discount the fact of, this kind of sounds gross, but I'll go to the gym and then like not shower until like a few hours later. But like, I really do have to shower right after the gym.
Yeah.
And it made a big difference when I started doing that.
That's huge. Like having a routine that helps you is so important. And obviously everyone is just like the body. Skin's going to react different to different products, different habits, different routines. Like I know some people who are like so sensitive to even just like certain types of towels, you know, it's like, okay. So we have to be so mindful of like what actually works for us, but it's cool that, you know, despite being so, what's the word, hesitant, you were like, all right, like whatever, I'll try it. And it worked for you, which is actually really cool. And you did talk about like diet and how that was also important. And there's this one question that this girl submitted a while ago that I haven't asked in a while, and I really wanted to ask it to some more people. So this is kind of random. What are some of your favorite meals, or maybe even like weirdest meals you eat on prep or in improvement season?
Weird meals that I eat. I don't know. All my meals are like super, super boring. I won't say I eat anything weird because I really don't, but I have really weird cravings during prep, like for foods that don't belong together.
Like what?
The other night I was just cracking up because I was just thinking about a jelly and cheese sandwich.
Ew.
Could not tell you
what is that.
I
had such an immediate reaction. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be like, that's nasty, but I was like, what?
I told my mom, I told my boyfriend, and they're like, what's wrong with you?
Actually, the more I think about it kind of sounds like good. Like I could imagine having like a grilled cheese and then dip it into like jam. Wait a minute.
Sweet and savory, like raspberry jelly with some fancy cheese. I don't know.
Okay, it's like, girl, you're onto something.
Like some pregnant girls, they're like have weird cravings. Like that's how I am.
That's good. I like the way you're thinking. I like sweet and savory is my go-to. Like if you could combine sweet and savory, and I had an initial reaction of that is so weird, and then now I'm like, wait a minute, that could be really good.
That sounds like it could work.
It's like,
so, you know, I'll be trying that.
We combine like grapes and cheese, so why wouldn't that be good?
Yeah. Or like when you go to a winery, they give you like the crackers with the jelly and the cheese and the fruit. Like it's all on the same tray.
I used to always put like strawberry jam on top of like cream cheese on top of like a Triscuit or something. I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I have to tell you about this one thing I do.
Yes.
It's a Triscuit with cream cheese on it and then some smoked salmon on top and like a pickle. Oh my gosh. It's the best thing ever.
Dang. See, now we're getting all the ideas out. We're two girls on prep.
Oh yeah. That's like one of my favorite meals.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, I want to get into like different, I mean, there's so many things I want to talk about, but you did say you got out of a negative relationship. You are in a healthier relationship now. Okay.
Amazing relationship now.
Yes, you got out of the friend zone, right?
Yes. We friend zoned each other, I think, back.
Really?
Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, yeah. Well, after I got out of the bad relationship, I was kind of like, well, I don't want to date anyone until I get my pro card. Let me focus on this. I'm not going to focus on dating. And of course, I met my boyfriend, Chris, while I was prepping for Universe. We were hanging out all the time, and people were like, oh, like you guys aren't a couple? And we're like, oh no, like he's just my friend.
When you say hanging out, do you mean like going to the gym and working out, or do you mean like you'd walk around town?
Like he would like come with me to my check-ins too.
Wow.
Yeah, so he would like drive with me to my coach and
watch me do my check-in. That show?
No, he hasn't competed.
What? I thought he was a competitor too. He lives the life though.
Yeah, he lives the life. He was prepping for his first show that was canceled because of COVID. So
rest in peace, all of us.
I know. That happened to you too. It was horrible.
Yeah.
He was like 6 weeks out and the show canceled.
Yeah.
He was so excited. But yeah, so it's just like day and night difference on prep and in life to have someone who actually supports what you do and lives the lifestyle alongside of you.
That's huge. And I mean, you mentioned like dating in the improvement season. How do you go about that? Like dating in prep versus the improvement season, or how do you make sure you're prioritizing each other? I mean, obviously you have this similar passion, but how do you prioritize each other in the relationship during those moments of like, I got to kill it in this prep. I'm trying to go win my pro card, or now I've got my pro card. I'm trying to crush this pro debut. Like, how do you go about that?
So me and Chris, like, we always are supporting each other as far as as far as the diet. But he knows that I like to still do things when I'm on prep, and he's not afraid to suggest doing things that maybe I wouldn't normally do, or that normal people wouldn't do on prep. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. So like I said earlier, we'll still hang out with our friends, and he'll go out and we'll go to the bar, and I'll just be the DD. And that doesn't bother me at all, because I still get to be social and I still get to go and have fun. And so we do things like that, which are nice, because when he's prepping, I'm sure if I want to go out with my friends, he'll be my DD. And it kind of like is a give and take. And then just finding hobbies that we can do together that are relaxing. Like we do puzzles. We're both super into playing games. Aww. We're like real like game dorks. We play Yahtzee and
love
Exploding
Yahtzee.
Kittens.
Never heard of that.
You've never heard of Exploding Kittens?
No. Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Forgive me. So sorry.
Our new one is called Unstable Unicorns. It is like this strategy card game.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so we make all our friends play like these random games with us.
I love it. This is a secret, you guys. This is a secret to be successful.
Puzzles and card games.
That's awesome. No, I think that's super cute. And it's nice that you guys have like those similarities and those things you can do together. There's a mutual respect as well for each other's goals, which is awesome, or each other's desires, which I think is so important. And obviously you both love working out at the gym. Did you meet at the gym?
I kind of saw him like on social media, and then I saw him at my gym. He had moved from Northern Virginia down to my area and started training at my gym. So I had like seen him, and then we became friends just like at the gym. But I would not have said hi to him if I hadn't like talked to him on social media first, because I'm way too shy for that.
Oh, really? You are?
Oh my gosh, I'm like painfully shy in person.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Okay, actually, how did you feel then when you were backstage with all these pros you had looked up to when it came time for your pro debut?
Well, that is my least favorite thing about show day, is like being backstage with everyone.
That sounds horrible, but it's true. I'm the same.
It's so, I just feel awkward, and I don't know. I don't think I anyone backstage at my pro debut.
You don't think you what?
I don't think I talked to anyone backstage at my pro debut.
Really?
Oh yeah. I made my best friend come with me backstage and like hold my hand the whole time.
Oh.
Yeah. But then after the first call outs, you know, they kind of tell everyone from the first call out to wait off in the wings.
Yeah.
And then in case they want to like call you back out or whatever. And I just remember standing back there, and I'm all these girls that I've looked up to, and I don't remember who said it. It might have been, I'm trying to think. I want to say it was like Dana. She like looked over at me. She was like, "Oh my God, it's your pro debut, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, I felt so validated. I'm like, this girl I always have looked up to is like, just congratulated me on getting first call outs.
Oh, that's awesome. Lauren is so sweet. And
yeah.
I think it's crazy like that you're so shy. I mean, I wouldn't have known you're shy just from how we're talking, but like a lot of people say that about me too. Like, you're introverted. I'm like, I get anxious thinking about, once I'm talking to people or people are talking to me, we're fine. You know, we're going to be okay.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like going into it.
It's just the initial like striking up the conversation that's hard.
Yes, I feel you. This podcast has actually pushed me out of my comfort zone so much. Like, I started as for a lot of reasons, and one of those reasons was to make sure my social skills didn't go down the tubes, because everything I do is online. Granted, this is still like online. We're like virtually doing this, but at the same time, like the conversation skills that I have improved so much because of it. And like, you know, when I go backstage, I'm not the first person to be like, some girls you notice like they want to talk to everybody. They're very out there. Yeah. That's definitely not me. I'm like, okay, if people come to me, we'll be good, or I'll wave and smile. But
oh my God, I'm the same way. I never would have thought that about you though. Not at all.
See, that's what I mean. Like that's what's so cool about this, is we would have never known that. We would have just both been backstage one day, been like, well, this is weird.
Exactly.
Now we won't have to be. Okay, so let's talk about your pro debut then, because after you did your show, after you did Universe and you won, got your pro card, you went on to San Antonio. And
Yeah.
what inspired you to then just go and do your pro debut?
So I think most people, obviously, once they get their pro card, they immediately want to know from the judges, should I take an off or should I just go ahead and do a pro show? So I emailed Sandy and she said, go ahead and do a pro show, see where you fit in with everybody. And I had just graduated from grad school. So of course I really wanted to do my pro debut, but financially it was kind of on the fence about it. But I have to thank my dad straight up for, he looked at me and I don't know if he was just kind of like proud or if he was like a little hyper from his steroids post chemo. I don't know. But he was like, how much money do you need? I'm going to write you a check so you can do this.
Wow.
And that was the first time like anyone had ever like helped me pay for this. And he was like, no, you're going to do it. And I want to see you do well. So thanks to him, I got to go to Texas. I found my friend, like my best friend came with me. It was awesome.
Wow. And I know this was at a really scary time for your family. When you won your pro card, like what did that mean to you? Like what does it mean for you to be a pro, and what did it mean for you in that moment?
Oh my goodness. So in that moment, I think it was like, first of all, like shock and feeling really proud of myself. And then I got to tell my family about it. And it was like, we really just needed a win. That's really the only way I can explain it, is there had been so much negativity and just bad energy that we needed something positive to focus on. And people week after week were asking me at work. I work in the same place as my dad. How's your dad? How's he feeling? How's he doing? And it was always like, it's just like people mean well, but it just keeps reminding you of the negativity that's happening. But then I got my pro card and all of a sudden everyone was so excited and so happy. It kind of flipped the energy around for a good while.
Nice.
Yeah.
That positivity probably had an influence on your dad. Would you say so?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then once he started chemo, he saw a lot of improvement really fast and everything turned around quickly.
Wow.
And by like September, he was like almost symptom free.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that is amazing. And I love how much he believed in you. I love how much your family supports you in that. And it's also cool because he was the one who said, look, there's a gym right over there. And then to also write that check and be like, you need to go and do this. And you did it.
I'll never live that down either.
Yeah,
Every
I'm sure.
time I do a show, he's like, remember when you said you would never work out? And I'm like, yes, I remember.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I love it. Well, it's so cool too that like I said, it's so cool that your family's so supportive. I think that can go a long way. Have they ever worried about you or been curious about your approach or the things that you do to get there? Like, have they ever questioned it?
Oh yeah. So my show was, like I said, it was on a whim and I didn't really understand it that point. So I don't think I did the best job of explaining it to my family. And we're a very religious family. We go to church every Sunday. And so for my mom to see me in this little tiny bikini and not really understand what it's about, at first she was like, what is this? Like almost like it was sexual. And I didn't really know how to explain it as, it's not about sexual, it's not about sexy, it's about athleticism and confidence and poise. And so my first show, I didn't let anyone in my family come and watch me in either of my first two shows. I was there by myself. And then once they saw it, my second year competing was when I think they more so understood what it was about, especially my mom. And she still to this day worries about me, about my health. It's hard not to, I'm sure, because I live at home with my parents still. And so she sees me eating my tilapia and vegetables, and by 5 p.m. I'm like on the couch tired, and of course she's like worried about me.
How far out are you right now?
4 weeks.
Okay, me too.
Yeah, so it's just like that final stretch where you're like, wow, I'm tired.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Yeah, but I think they do like the approach that I have as far as intuitive eating. I try to remind my mom and my dad too, but my mom's more of the concerned parent. She worries a little bit more than my dad. That in my off season, I really do strive to have a healthy relationship with and repair if damage that I'm doing during prep. So yeah.
That's huge. Like showing that it's really a lifestyle. It's something you really enjoy. There's different sides to it, and you can definitely wear all the hats with it and enjoy all of that. And yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think a lot of moms get worried about it. My mom wasn't so much worried. My dad, he'll sometimes, the other day he asked me, he's like, I don't understand how do you do all that cardio and then you're only eating that? And I was like, it's a great question. He's like, how do you feel? Like, how do you even have the energy? I was like, that's the point though. Like part of prep
You're like, I don't.
Yeah, like you just, I mean, yeah, there's probably going to be people who will get triggered by this conversation, but it's important to understand like there are parts of prep where you're just like, I'm burning through everything. I'm burning through the things that I didn't even know that I still had. And that's, you know, the difference between like the competitor life and then like the healthy living life. But it's like,
yes,
my dad's also like willing to support me and he asks me questions. And that's the best thing is like when you have people who can respect the process and who are like inquire about it, they want to know, they're curious, and you can share from the perspective that you've had and as you've grown through the sport. And I love to know from some pros, and I don't ask this question enough, but how do you feel like your identity or maybe outlook on competing and prep or improvement seasons has changed since you became a pro?
Ooh, since I became a pro, I don't
if
know.
At all.
I feel like I thought it was going to change a lot, I guess, but it really didn't. From the time like going into my pro card until like now being a pro, I feel like it's been really the same, where everything counts. It counts in the off season. It counts in the prep. It counts in the reverse diet. Everything counts for something. And like I said earlier, when I say it counts, it doesn't necessarily mean it counts in a healthy, in like a fitness sense. Some of it is, it counts in all aspects of your wellness. So, yeah.
I love that.
I don't know if I explained that very well.
No, you did. You did. Yeah. No, I appreciated that because it shows that, well, one, you were already living that before you became a pro, and being a pro doesn't always mean some magical shift happens. But also like that everything counts, and changing that mindset from meaning what I'm doing isn't enough to instead, this is how everything I'm doing is enough and important. I think is really big because, you know, we tend to hear things like everything counts and immediately think, I need to be on top of my game on this and that and the other thing. Really, it's like, okay, like what's best for you.
Exactly. And like back to that cake example I gave you earlier, like, yeah, it's not counting it counts towards your physique, but it counts towards your relationship. It counts towards your mental health. Like all of that stuff is important.
Yes, it is. I love it when people emphasize that. I think that's so important. I mean, girl, like the thing is too, that's going to help with longevity. It's going to help with sustainability. And with the way that this sport is growing and the competitive atmosphere it's bringing, you have to be able to last. If you can't last in the sport because you're not following a protocol that you actually enjoy and you like, it's not gonna happen. You will be you're going to burn out, or you're going to be like, well, my efforts aren't paying off because it's competitive.
Oh yeah. And I try to tell people too, like, especially like amateurs or my friends going for pro cards, it's like, yeah, when you become a pro, like, do you really think you're going to be a bikini competitor for the rest of your life? No, you're not. At some point, you're going to retire from this sport and you're going to be a quote normal person again. And you don't want there to be lasting damage from when you were a pro. Like, I want to have kids one day. I want to be married and work my job and maybe coach girls in the future. But I can't do any of those things if I'm doing lasting damage on my mental health.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And after you did San Antonio Pro, you went on to Iowa Pro, and you felt that that was your best look ever, but it was actually, you actually placed in the bottom call out. You had never been in front of those judges. How was their feedback different than the feedback you got from judges at San Antonio?
I think, well, first off, I really liked my look going into Iowa and San Antonio, but I think my body was just tired. Okay. And I was holding a little bit more water in my lower half, looking back on it in hindsight. But as far as my overall package, my posing in Iowa is so much better. So this year I'm really trying to get like the physique from San Antonio, but the confidence I had in Iowa on stage to bring it in the middle. And one of the things in the Iowa show was I really only got feedback from one judge, and it was very short. And I'm talking like 2 sentences.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, that kind of just depends on the judge and how much time they have and stuff. You definitely quickly learn what judges are going to give you more feedback and more detail. So I really got feedback that was exactly what I thought. I wasn't lean enough in my lower half. Bring more upper body size. That's kind of the consistent feedback that I get, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my body was just tired and I needed a break.
Do you feel like you made the improvements they asked you to make?
Oh, I wish I could say yes. I'm a little worried only because I had my breast augmentation in December.
Okay.
And so that obviously impedes how much size you can gain in your upper body. You can't lift for a while after.
Right.
And then COVID happened and then I couldn't lift for a while. So I really only had a really short improvement season, which was like maybe 3 or 4 months, which of course I didn't lose any muscle, but I didn't gain as much as I would have liked, I don't think. So I'm excited to do these shows this year and then get into an improvement season that's hopefully uninterrupted this time.
Yeah. Why did you decide to prep this season and do shows this season?
Oh, I don't know. So I guess just because I had been saving money all year. Yeah. And the real reason I work, not the real reason, obviously I love my job, but I do, I love my job. But one of the reasons I went into the school system instead of a private practice was so that I could compete in the summers. And yeah, so I was like, well, that'd be a waste if I didn't compete this year. So I figured go do the same show, maybe hit like 2 or 3, see what feedback I get, and then really hit it hard in this improvement season.
Love that. And you talked about financial investment earlier a little bit. And obviously, you know, college is a financial investment, competing is a financial investment. So how were you able to prioritize or budget for the shows you wanted to do, especially when you weren't sure if you would have to be doing like another national show?
Oh, man. That's a hard question. I think just trying to, I don't want to say like cut corners financially, but there are things that you don't have to buy. Like you don't need 3 different suits. You don't need 3 different pairs of earrings. You don't have to get a massage every month. Just little things like that can be cut out really help me compete more times. I always have it in the back of my head that I could spend, let's say, $80 on the massage, or I could spend that $80, save it, and then put it towards my hotel at a different show. I always think like more shows is better than more stuff. So yeah. And for my first show, let me tell you, girl, I cut every financial corner that there was.
Really?
Yeah, I was a sophomore in college. I did not have a job. Well, I had a summer job, but not that much. And I made my own suit. I did my own hair. I did my own makeup. Like, I didn't even stay at a hotel. So
wow. Do you still do your own makeup and hair?
No.
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 You're
I
like,
made that
that's not
mistake my
happening.
first year, and then when I had it professionally done, I was like, wow, this is so much better. I'm never going back to doing it.
Know your strengths.
Yes, no, that's not mine. I can't even do my makeup on a normal day, so I don't know why I thought I could do it for a show day.
This will be fine.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I love it. Well, that's great. I think there's girls who struggle with the idea of like, how do I actually work this in financially? But also, you know, you are someone who works full time, and you went to school full time while competing. And I always like to hear from girls who have a full time job, like how they manage their day. So, what does a normal day look like for you, and how do you stay on top of being your best at work, but also being your best as an athlete?
Yeah. So a normal day for me, it's been obviously different because of COVID and everything lately, working from home. But on a normal day, I work at a high school. So near me, high school starts at 7 a.m. So I have a 45-minute commute. So I'm out of my house by 6. I have all my food with me and all my gym stuff with me. And I'll work. Luckily, I have the flexibility as a speech therapist to create my own schedule throughout the day and decide what kids I want to see when. And so that's nice because I'll be able to block out time for I need to eat meal 1 at this time and meal 2 at this time, meal 3 at this time. Yeah, that has been a blessing. And my high school lets out at 2:30, and then I head straight to the gym. And after the gym, I'm pretty much fried for the evening.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's been one of the best things about working in the school is the schedule isn't an 8 to 5. So I'm at the gym like 3:15, so I get to beat that.
Yes.
That's the best. But it's still an early day. So I'm really glad I chose to work where I do.
So do you work at all in the summertime?
So I don't have to, but since this year everything was online, I did volunteer to do summer school online. So I've been doing that, but it's not the biggest commitment.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you mind me asking how you feel like financially? Do you feel like you're in a position where it's not that hard for you now to get ready to do shows, or do you feel like you don't have that opportunity?
I wouldn't say that I don't feel like I can. I certainly feel like I can do more shows than I do, but I've always been like a saver. And
yeah.
I know, like, thinking about my future, like, I'm only 24. One of these days I want to get married. I want to have a nice wedding. I want to move out of my parents' house at some point. So I try to keep all of that stuff in perspective when I make the decision to do a show. Because, I mean, bare minimum to do a show, you're looking at $1,000. And if that $1,000 is better spent on rent, then why would I do this show?
Right. I
just think, like, financially to be a little bit more, I tend to be a little bit more conservative, but to each their own, you know?
Absolutely. I'm definitely on the same page as you with that. I'm a big saver. However, when it comes to competing, I don't usually think twice about it if it's aligned with my goals in competing. Now, I look back on my 2018 season, I'm like, I probably could have done without like 3 of those shows and been fine and still progress, you know? So we live and learn. So now I'm being even more strategic, but I have certain things in my life where I'm like I don't spend money on anything. Literally nothing. So it's like, if I'm going to spend money, it's going to be on competing.
Yes.
It's going to be on groceries. It's going to be on my gym, $8 gym membership. I mean, no, it's not happening.
Yeah.
And my business. And obviously now I'm paying for my master's program is a whole other story. But it's like, for the most part, everything I spend money on is like self-development. So
yes. It's like you want to take the money you earn and then like reinvest it back into yourself.
Yes. Then you make
right?
more
Like
money.
whether that be school or like competing, whatever is gonna bring it back into yourself, your business.
Yep, exactly. And that's always paid off because it's an empowering investment. Not to say, buying a nice pair of leggings doesn't feel good sometimes, but it's different energy, different commitment, different intention. So I think sometimes broaching the topic of finances can be difficult for people. So I appreciate that you brought like that up and you were willing to expand on that as well. We've talked about a lot of different things, but I haven't asked you a question that I've been asking people every time, which is if you could only pick one exercise for the rest of your life for glutes, one for shoulders, and one for hamstrings, what exercise would you pick for each of those?
Ooh, okay. Well, I feel like everyone probably gives the same answer. For glutes, I would probably say hip thrusts or glute bridges, whatever you want to call that. That one's definitely it. For shoulders, definitely shoulder raises or shoulder press, like dumbbell shoulder press. And then for hamstrings, I don't know, like a reverse hyperextension maybe.
Nice.
I like those, or like a straight leg deadlift, but I get that a lot in my glutes too. So I don't really know which one that is.
The straight leg deadlift, you get a lot in your glutes?
Yeah, I feel that so much in my glutes.
Yeah, me too, actually, because I feel like I always started that one thinking like pull a pin out of the wall behind you with your glutes, like with your butt cheeks. That's how I think of it whenever I'm doing it. Unless I don't.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. I've never even thought of that as like a hamstring exercise. I just feel it so much in my glutes.
I know. I mean, I'll feel the stretch, and it depends on like my foot position. It depends on like, honestly, if my knees are like, I'm sorry, not my knees. If I come through with my hips all the way through, do the ugly butt squeeze, like,
yep,
I'm for sure just engaged in my glutes for the most part. It's like, if I don't do that, then I can get the hamstrings going.
It's like one of those things you can kind of tweak and make it different things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay. Well, I've loved everything we've talked about. And you probably know I'm going to ask you next for your advice. So what is your best advice for a girl who has never competed before but would like to compete? And then your best advice for someone on their road to pro?
For someone who has never competed before, I would say to think about why you're doing it. I feel like a lot of people like kind of come into this and they don't really know what their why is, or even if it's just like me on a whim. Are you doing this to win? Are you doing this to empower yourself? Are you doing this for fun? Think about why you're doing it and make that the focus of your prep. For girls hoping to go pro, kind of the similar thing, like always remember to have fun with it, because when you put too much pressure on yourself, like you're just gonna, for me, like I said, we talked about in the beginning too, you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah.
And the reason, like, remember your why and have fun and keep trying. Not everyone's journey looks the same, and some people might compete and get their pro card on their first try, and some girls it might take 6 or 7 times. So don't give up.
I love that.
Still have fun. Don't give up.
Have fun. Don't give up.
That's like my life motto. Just like have fun with everything.
That's awesome. I love that. And you're obviously living that way. You're doing the things that you love to do. You're enjoying them. You've found joy in them. And like, you're a good example of someone who actually does that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Of course. Well, I've loved our conversation, and I want everybody to be able to tag you after they listen or maybe as they were listening and connect with you. So can you let everybody know how they can do that?
Yeah. So my Instagram is at KaseyLFitness_IFBB Pro. And you guys can message me, email me, whatever. I'm like, my phone, I'm always around. I feel like I'm one of those people that's quick to respond. And I love getting messages from people too. I love it. It makes my day.
Yes, I know. It's the best. I love seeing everybody tag, especially from listening to the episode, like with major takeaways or maybe touching base on things they have questions about or things that resonated. So you guys, Kasey is open to be reached out to, so definitely take advantage of that. I'm going to make sure that I put the Instagram handle in the show notes page. That's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening to it right when it's released, cool. It's going to be at the top of the page. If you're listening to this in the future, then just scroll to the category section and you'll find Kasey's name there. And then you can find all her information that way. Now, I just want to say again, thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate it when you rate, review, and subscribe. It goes a long way for listenership. It means so much to me. And Kasey, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. That was so fun.
Of course. And I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.